Alone, terrified and bitten by a venomous snake, an Apache woman's life hung by a thread. While everyone else hesitated, only one man dared to act. Witness the harrowing rescue and the bond formed in the face of life-threatening danger. Watch how courage and compassion saved a life no one else could. Let's get started. The Apache woman had been exploring the outskirts of the territory, moving carefully through the brush and rocky terrain, her keen eyes scanning the ground for signs of life. The sun had begun its slow descent, casting long shadows across the land, turning the familiar landscape into something strange and ominous. Birds called from the trees, their cries mingling with the distant hum of insects. Every step she took was measured, cautious, but the world had a way of reminding you that even the most careful could fall victim to danger. She was skilled, experienced, yet the wilderness was unpredictable. Without warning, a flash of movement near her foot brought a sudden, sharp pain. The snake's fangs had sunk deep into her leg before she even had time to react. She stumbled backward, clutching her leg, as the venom coursed through her veins with frightening speed. Her heart raced as heat and pain radiated from the bite. Sweat gathered on her brow, and her breath came in short, panicked gasps. For a moment, the world tilted and spun around her. She realized she was not just hurt. She was alone, vulnerable, and the poison was relentless. She called out for help, her voice trembling, but the echo of her cries only returned emptily through the rocks and sparse trees. There were others nearby, members of neighboring families, but fear kept them hidden. Superstition and terror of the deadly snake paralyzed them as effectively as the venom paralyzing her leg. The woman's mind raced. She needed to act quickly, but the pain clouded her thoughts. She sank to the ground, struggling to remain conscious, every beat of her heart matched by the growing pain in her leg. Panic clawed at her chest. In the midst of her fear, a figure appeared on the horizon, tall and steady, moving with a purpose that belied the danger. The rancher approached. He had heard her cries from afar and had not hesitated. His face was calm, eyes focused, betraying none of the alarm he must have felt at the thought of confronting a venomous snake bite. He knew the stakes. Every second mattered. The woman's vision blurred as she saw him draw closer, hope flickering faintly in her exhausted mind. Her body trembled, half from pain, half from fear of what might happen next. He reached her side quickly, kneeling down with care. His hands were steady, practiced, as he gently assessed the wound. The swelling had already begun to spread, darkening and pulsing with each heartbeat. The woman's face contorted in pain, tears pricking her eyes, shame mixing with fear. She had always been independent, proud, but now she was forced into helplessness. The rancher's voice was low and encouraging. "It's going to be all right. You're strong, but I need you to stay still." He examined the bite carefully, the sunlight glinting on his knife, ready for what needed to be done. She bit her lip to stop a scream as he prepared to act. The thought of cutting away the infected flesh terrified her, but the venom was spreading too fast to wait. Her survival depended entirely on his skill and courage. The rancher worked efficiently, speaking only when necessary to reassure her. His hands moved deliberately, precise and unshaking despite the intensity of the moment. Every action was critical. Her body shuddered, pain racking her muscles. Yet she forced herself to breathe steadily, following his instructions, clinging to the hope that she would survive. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as he continued to work. The sun dipped lower, painting the landscape with shades of gold and red, shadows stretching like silent witnesses to their struggle. The woman's strength waned, but the rancher's focus never faltered. He applied his knowledge of first aid, treating the wound with careful attention. His presence alone steadied her, giving her courage she hadn't known she possessed. Gradually, the worst of the venom spread, slowed. Color returned to her face, though pale and strained, and she could feel the tightness in her leg easing slightly. As the last light of day began to fade, the rancher helped her to sit against a tree. He checked the wound one final time, cleaning it carefully and ensuring no further immediate danger lingered. The woman's body trembled with exhaustion, her hands clutching at her stomach, at her legs, anywhere to ground herself in reality. She looked up at him, gratitude and awe shining in her eyes. He had saved her life, done what no one else dared to do. Words were unnecessary between them. Silence spoke volumes. When the other people finally emerged from hiding, they looked on in awe and shame. None had acted, paralyzed by fear, but the rancher's bravery had altered everything. He did not boast, did not demand recognition. He simply ensured she was safe. In that quiet, tense moment, the woman understood the depth of his courage. It was not the absence of fear that made him heroic, but the willingness to face it for the sake of another. She felt a connection forming, born in crisis, but rooted in respect and shared humanity. Night fell completely, and the woman's breathing grew more steady. Her leg was sore but stable, and the immediate danger had passed. The rancher gathered a small fire, warming both of them and offering comfort in the form of blankets and quiet conversation. He remained vigilant, knowing that recovery was still delicate. She lay back against the warmth of the firelight, exhausted, yet deeply grateful, realizing how close she had come to losing everything. Trust had been earned in moments of crisis, and she now saw him not just as a stranger, but as someone who had risked everything for her. The desert night stretched on, filled with sounds that had once terrified her, but now seemed manageable. The stars glimmered above, silent witnesses to the ordeal that had transpired. The rancher spoke softly, telling her to rest, to regain her strength. She listened, comforted by his steady presence. As she drifted into a fitful sleep, she realized that her life had irrevocably changed in the span of a few hours. She had encountered true courage and compassion, qualities rare and precious in a harsh, unforgiving land. By morning, the swelling had gone down significantly, and she could walk with assistance. The rancher helped her, one careful step at a time. She marveled at how someone could act with such clarity and bravery in the face of imminent danger. Other members of the community watched silently, a mixture of admiration and respect growing in their eyes. The woman understood that her survival was not just luck, it was a direct result of courage, quick thinking, and selflessness. She would never forget the man who had saved her life. The rancher knelt carefully beside her, his eyes scanning the bite as he lifted her skirt with a respect that made her heart race with both fear and relief. The swelling had spread faster than she could have imagined, deep purple around the puncture wound, throbbing painfully with every heartbeat. She tried to pull away, shame and embarrassment flooding her senses, but he held her gently, urging her to stay still. Time was critical. The venom had already begun to travel through her veins, and every second he delayed could mean the difference between life and death. His calm presence steadied her panicked mind. He retrieved his knife from its sheath, the sunlight glinting off the blade. It was a simple tool, but in skilled hands, it could be life-saving. The woman's breathing became shallow, her body trembling uncontrollably. She had faced dangers before in her life, but never one so intimate, so urgent. Her mind raced between fear of the knife and fear of the venom. She clutched at his arm instinctively, her nails digging into his sleeve. He offered her a reassuring nod, his eyes steady and kind. "I need to do this to save you," he murmured. His tone left no room for panic. As he worked, he spoke softly, instructing her to breathe and remain calm. Every movement was precise, deliberate, careful, honed by years of experience in the unforgiving territory. The air was thick with tension. The buzzing of insects and distant caws of birds seemed to fade into silence around them. She could feel her strength waning, muscles trembling, yet his presence grounded her. The knife made small, careful incisions, removing the poisoned tissue. Her lips parted in quiet gasps, eyes tearing up, but she forced herself to obey his guidance. Life hung in the balance, and she clung to the hope he instilled. His hands never wavered. The rancher's focus was absolute, his attention riveted entirely on the wound, the spread of the venom, and the fragile body before him. Sweat beaded on his brow, but he did not falter. He had faced dangerous situations before, yet none demanded the delicacy and immediacy of this task. The woman's mind spun in a haze of pain and fear, yet she trusted him implicitly. It was a trust built in a matter of minutes, forged in the crucible of near death. Every precise cut, every careful motion reminded her that courage was not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. The rancher worked steadily, using makeshift bandages and leaves to staunch bleeding where necessary. He assessed the wound repeatedly, checking the tissue around the bite, ensuring the poison could not travel further. The woman's body was a storm of pain and adrenaline. Her chest rose and fell in uneven rhythms, and she clutched the dirt beneath her to anchor herself. Her mind darted between panic and awe, her gaze fixed on the man who refused to yield to the danger around them. It was as if the world had narrowed down to just the two of them, suspended in a fragile moment of life and death. Hours seemed to stretch into eternity as he worked. The sun dipped low, and the shadows lengthened across the uneven ground. The heat of the day gave way to the chill of the desert evening, yet he remained focused. He occasionally murmured encouragement, his voice calm and steady. "You're doing fine, just a little longer." The woman felt her body relax slightly at his words, though the pain remained sharp and constant. His skill and composure offered a lifeline, a promise that she might survive this ordeal. In those hours, she felt both terrified and grateful, caught between fear and hope. She tried to speak to thank him, but words failed her. Only tears came, silently tracing the dirt-streaked lines of her face. He wiped them gently, not patronizing, simply acknowledging her humanity and vulnerability. The woman realized that survival required surrendering control to someone she barely knew, yet she felt safer than she had in hours. Each precise incision, each careful application of pressure was a testament to his experience and courage. The venom's spread slowed gradually, the worst of the swelling beginning to recede. She could feel life returning to her leg, fragile but present. Night fell, painting the land in dark blues and purples. The desert's noises seemed sharper now, the rustle of small animals, the occasional hoot of an owl, but the rancher's presence provided a cocoon of security. He continued to check her pulse, monitor her breathing, and treat the wound meticulously. His hands never shook, his voice never faltered. The woman realized that in this wilderness, courage often came quietly, without show or applause, in acts of care and precision that could mean the difference between life and death. She was witnessing heroism in its purest, most understated form. Finally, after what felt like endless hours, he set the last bandages in place. The wound was treated, the venom slowed, and her body was stabilizing. She could move slightly without intense pain, though her leg remained tender. She looked at him with gratitude that went beyond words, her eyes glistening in the firelight. The rancher simply nodded, his expression calm, almost shy in its simplicity. He had acted because it was necessary, because it was the right thing to do. No one else had dared intervene. In that moment, she understood the depth of selfless courage. They sat together for a long time, listening to the desert night. The woman's body was trembling with exhaustion, her mind replaying the terror of the past hours. Yet the fear had shifted subtly, replaced by a profound respect and trust in the man who had saved her. He offered her water, a quiet smile, and words of reassurance. "You'll be all right now. Just rest." She nodded weakly, her body leaning against him slightly for support. The bond forged in crisis was unspoken but undeniable, a tether of gratitude and recognition of bravery that neither would forget. By dawn, the first light painted the landscape in soft golds and pinks. The woman's leg had improved, and she could stand with careful assistance. Her strength was returning slowly, each step a reminder of how close she had come to death. She looked at the rancher, awe and respect mingling in her gaze. He remained vigilant, watching over her, yet there was no pretense, only quiet competence and care. She realized that survival in the wild often depended not just on skill, but on trust, courage, and the willingness of another to act when all else fails. The woman's thoughts wandered to those who had hidden in fear. None had acted, yet she understood the power of courage. In the rancher, she had found a protector, someone willing to face danger head-on, not for glory, but because it was necessary. She marveled at the quiet heroism, the patient focus, the empathy that guided his hands. This experience would remain etched in her memory forever, a lesson in human resilience, compassion, and the extraordinary courage that ordinary people could summon in extraordinary moments. Perfect. मैं आपके पार्ट 3 को fully expand करके 1200 words लिख देता हूँ. Paragraph style, complete और provisional, और story का emotional climax, aftermath और bond development दिखाता हूँ. उसके बाद मैं आपको YouTube storing hook और 10 prompts भी दूंगा. The hours dragged on, the sun dipping lower and casting long shadows across the rugged landscape. The rancher did not waver, his hands steady as he adjusted the bandages and monitored the swelling. The woman's body, once trembling uncontrollably, began to relax under his care. Slowly, color returned to her face, and her shallow, uneven breaths became steady and calm. The relief that washed over both of them was palpable. For the first time since the snake strike, hope replaced the sharp edge of fear. Her eyes met his, gratitude shining in a way words could never fully capture. The harsh wind of the territory rustled her dress, now tattered and stained from the ordeal. She realized that her clothing, once crisp and neat, had been smeared with blood and dirt from the snakebite and the emergency treatment. With the rancher's guidance, she carefully changed into a spare outfit he had brought for emergencies. A simple linen dress that fit the practical, rugged lifestyle of the frontier. The shift was symbolic as much as practical. She was no longer just a victim of circumstance, but a survivor. Every movement she made was a cautious test of her strength returning. Around them, the others who had hidden in fear now gathered at a safe distance. Their eyes, wide with awe, followed each careful motion. None had dared intervene, frozen by superstition and terror. They whispered among themselves, astonished at the quiet bravery displayed by the rancher. It was not loud or boastful, yet it spoke volumes about courage and character. The woman watched the reactions with a mixture of relief and pride, knowing that his selfless actions had not only saved her life, but had also set an example of true heroism in their community. She shifted carefully to sit by the fire the rancher had built, warmth radiating through the cool desert A. Her legs still ached, but the worst of the venom's effects had been neutralized. The rancher offered her water, speaking softly, guiding her through small movements to ensure she didn't strain herself. The way he worked with calm precision, attending to each detail without rush, was remarkable. His quiet presence instilled a sense of safety and trust, a stark contrast to the panic and fear that had filled the air only hours earlier. She felt an unfamiliar but comforting sense of security. As night fully descended, the stars appeared overhead, brilliant and endless. The woman's thoughts wandered between the terror of the past hours and the relief of her survival. She realized that the bond forming between her and the rancher was unique, forged not in days, but in crisis. It was a bond built on trust, courage, and unwavering focus under pressure. The lessons she learned about bravery and human kindness were profound. True courage, she thought, was not in weapons or loud heroics, but in the willingness to step into danger when everyone else steps back, to act when others falter. The rancher remained vigilant, checking her pulse and adjusting the bandages as needed. He never sought acknowledgement or thanks, performing his task quietly and methodically. Each careful adjustment of her dressing was accompanied by a soft word of reassurance, a reminder that she was safe now. Exhaustion tugged at her limbs, yet she remained alert enough to notice the care he put into every movement. He treated her not just as a patient, but as a person whose life mattered deeply. The thought struck her profoundly. Bravery often came quietly, in deeds that spoke louder than words ever could.
Gradually,
The
she
pain
began
was
to
still present,
move with
but
more
manageable,
confidence,
a
testing the
reminder
strength
of what
in
she
her
had
leg.
endured and survived. Each step was deliberate, yet the rancher's presence at her side gave her the courage to trust her body again. She marveled at his patience and expertise, realizing that his ability to stay calm under extreme pressure had saved her life. The fear that had dominated her thoughts earlier was replaced with admiration and respect, and a deep, unspoken gratitude that bonded them in a way words could not fully express. The night deepened, and the desert grew quiet except for the occasional rustle of nocturnal animals. The woman leaned against a rock, feeling the warmth of the fire and the calm presence of the rancher nearby. She reflected on how fragile life could be and how quickly circumstances could change. One moment she had been terrified, alone and helpless. The next she had been rescued, cared for with skill and compassion. The transition was overwhelming, yet it filled her with a sense of humility and awe. It was a night she would never forget, etched forever in her memory. By morning, the first light illuminated the territory in golden hues. The woman could move more freely, though her leg remained tender. The rancher helped her stand, supporting her with steady hands. Around them, the others remained silent, still in awe of what had occurred. They had witnessed courage in its purest form, and their perception of heroism had been forever altered. She felt the significance of the event, understanding that survival was not just a matter of chance, but often of human determination, skill, and selflessness. The rancher had embodied all three. As they prepared to leave the site, the woman adjusted her now clean linen dress, the dirt and stains gone, replaced with practicality and dignity. The change of clothes symbolized not only her physical recovery, but also her renewed sense of strength and resilience. Each movement reminded her of the ordeal she had overcome, the terror she had faced, and the courage that had saved her life. She walked beside the rancher, feeling a mixture of relief, admiration, and an emerging trust. The bond between them, forged in the crucible of danger, had shifted from mere survival to something deeper, lasting, and profound. The sun rose higher, casting light over the land, highlighting the scars of the past hours, yet also revealing the strength that had emerged. The woman glanced at the rancher one last time before departing, a silent acknowledgement of the life he had saved. His quiet heroism, humility, and bravery were lessons she would carry forever. In the aftermath of danger, trust and compassion had been cemented between them, reminding both of the enduring power of courage, selflessness, and human connection. That day marked the beginning of a story neither would forget, a story of survival, resilience, and newfound respect.